In May of 2008, the binational St. Lawrence Seaway was the site for a unique two-day event highlighting the waterway's ballast water inspection process for all commercial ocean vessels entering the U.S. and Canadian transportation route. The event, held in Montreal, Canada, was sponsored by the U.S. St. Lawrence Seaway Development Corporation and the Canadian St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation, in conjunction with Transport Canada and the United States Coast Guard. The 650-foot Federal Kivalina, a bulk vessel owned and operated by the FedNav Group, was tied to the wall of St. Lambert Lock and made available for boarding and inspection by members of the media and Seaway stakeholders, including state representatives and environmental groups. The purpose of this event was to showcase the new Seaway regulations requiring saltwater flushing of every ballast tank on every ocean-going vessel entering the St. Lawrence Seaway, regardless of whether they are in a ballast or non-ballast condition. Terry Johnson, administrator of the U.S. Seaway Corporation, explains.
The goal for us here in Montreal in this inspection process to have a situation where there are no unmanaged ballast water tanks or unmanaged ballast water. Everything gets looked at, everything gets tested, and if it does not meet the requirements, the ship is then required to retain that ballast water on board until it exits back out of the system.
In a recent study, scientists found that flushing salt water into ballast tanks containing residual amounts of water or sediment is highly effective in eradicating most aquatic invasive species. The study documented that saltwater flushing produced a kill rate of 99 to 100% for a majority of organisms. Two of the world's foremost scientists in this field attended the event in Montreal and commented on saltwater as a biocide. Dr. David Reed, senior research scientist at the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, said, "Open ocean ballast exchange proved to be a highly effective method to reduce the concentration of zooplankton in ballast tanks, resulting in a decrease in total zooplankton by greater than 99%. Dr. Hugh McIsaac, director of the Canadian Aquatic Invasive Species Network at the University of Windsor, said, "Saltwater flushing is a beautiful interim solution which will get rid of about 99% of the freshwater organisms in ballast water tanks. It looks like we are going to be largely solving this issue in the Great Lakes." To ensure that every ocean-going vessel is in compliance with the new regulations, Seaway marine inspectors check the ballast water salinity levels for each ocean vessel in Montreal before allowing it to continue on its voyage into the Great Lakes. The event's attendees were provided with a demonstration of how this procedure works. Shown here, the Seaway Marine Inspector calibrates the refractometer, a device used to measure ballast water salinity levels in the water taken from one of the Federal Kivalina's ballast tanks. After the refractometer is set, the inspector instructs one of the ship's crew members to drop a sounding tape and bob into the ballast tank. The bob, a cylindrical type weight, descends about 15 meters to the bottom of the tank. After resting on the bottom of the ballast tank for several seconds, the sounding tape and bob are retrieved, and one drop of the ballast tank's water is placed on the refractometer.
We verified that we have over 40 parts per thousand of ocean salt water.
The attendees were then taken to the ship's cargo room, where a representative of the Canadian Seaway Corporation and the captain of the Federal Kivalina explained the extensive record-keeping and documentation required for ships entering the St. Lawrence Seaway. The captain points to the exact location where the ballast tank flushing occurred in the open ocean. If a ballast tank fails to meet the salinity requirement, it must be sealed and stay sealed while the ship is trading in the Great Lakes. Violations of the Seaway regulations related to ballast water requirements can result in fines up to $36,000 per incident. Since the new regulation came into effect with the start of the 2008 shipping season, compliance with the new rules and testing and inspection process has been approximately 99%. As U.S. Seaway Administrator Terry Johnson and Canadian Seaway President Dick Korff explain, Montreal's strategic location as the sole entry point for ocean ships sailing into the Great Lakes makes it ideally situated to serve as the inspection site.
Because of the geographical situation, the Great Lakes is in a position to be protected from invasives like no other waterway in the United States. Not the Chesapeake Bay, not the West Coast, not anywhere. It is because of this, what you see right here. Every ship has to go through this checkpoint. And if we do our job properly, we will dramatically and drastically reduce the risk that the Great Lakes faces of future invasive species. It'll be very dramatic. And we take our job seriously, and we intend to do just that.
We think it's important because there's lots of information about ballast water and invasive species that's not very well understood by the public in particular. And what we're trying to do here is explain the procedures we go through, the regulations we have to meet for a vessel like this to come into the system, and the fact that if we do our job properly here at St. Lambert, which is the entrance to the Great Lakes, then we'll seriously reduce any possibility of aquatic nuisance species coming into the lakes. This year we've only had one vessel out of 86 that's had to cap a ballast water tank, so we're getting very close to the 100%. And that's the idea of the rules and regulations, to have 100% compliance with this requirement.
Not only are the U.S. and Canadian Seaway corporations committed to enforcement of the regulations, but the shipping industry also endorses the new rules.
We at FedNav are committed to solving this problem and to getting this issue under control. The Seaways, both the American and Canadian side, are committed to getting this issue under control. And I want the people in this room to have no mistake about that.
In summary, with the start of the 2008 shipping season, the St. Lawrence Seaway now has strict and enforceable regulatory and testing and inspection protocols in place for all commercial ocean ships entering the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system. As noted by U.S. Seaway Administrator Terry Johnson, the days of invasive species easily entering the Great Lakes Seaway system by ocean vessel ballast water and tanks are now over.